A Filipino mayor is accused of being a Chinese spy, but an investigation revealed she was just the tip of the iceberg. Welcome to China Uncensored. I'm Chris Chappell. There's reason to believe that the Chinese Communist Party's long arm of influence has reached the Philippines, but only in the most ridiculous way imaginable. Because a few days ago, the mayor of a small town in the Philippines was accused of being a Chinese spy. The alleged spy's name is Alice Leal Guo, and she's the absolute picture of youth and enthusiasm. Really, she looks like the head of a high school debate club rather than a mayor. But mayor she is of the small town Bamban. The accusation has stirred up a bit of a hornet's nest in the Philippines. Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. even commented on the situation, saying, "I know all the politicians from Tarlac province, no one knows her." But if Guo's social media pages are to be believed, there is one politician in the Philippines who knows her, and that's President Marcos Jr. Maybe he didn't recognize her without the face mask. And Marcos does claim he has no idea who she is and that the two were photographed incidentally during one of his campaign rallies in 2022. But here's the thing, if Guo is a Chinese spy, she's got to be just about the worst spy ever. Because when she was asked basic questions about her life during a Senate hearing in the Filipino capital last week, her answers were lackluster, to say the least. She said she grew up on a pig farm and was homeschooled, but she couldn't remember the name of the organization that homeschooled her, just the name of one teacher. Come on, this is Spycraft 101. Know your cover story. She admitted that her birth certificate was only registered with local authorities when she was 17. But she said this is because she was born at home and not in a clinic or hospital. So it took her parents 17 years to register her birth. At one point, she said her father was Filipino, even though she had previously said he was Chinese, which is backed up by business records. Even her age seems uncertain. According to the BBC, she's 35, but according to the South China Morning Post, she's 37. Some of the details surrounding her were also a bit weird. For example, according to the Commission on Elections, Guo registered to vote in Banban only a year before her successful mayoral campaign. Her Chinese last name also isn't common among Filipinos with Chinese ancestry, making some even more suspicious about her origins. The only way this could be any more suspicious is if her name was Alice Leal, definitely not a spy, Guo, and her birth certificate was written in crayon. The investigation is ongoing, so there's no definitive proof that Guo is a Chinese spy. Maybe she's just a person who gets ruffled under pressure. Heck, since tensions between Beijing and Manila are running high, it might be that this is an unfortunate case of someone being investigated simply for being ethnically Chinese. Only time will tell. But how did we get here? Well, it's all linked to the deeper problem of POGOs. No, I don't mean the bouncy sticks, although those are super dangerous. I'm talking about Philippine offshore gaming operations. POGOs are online gambling and gaming firms that offer services to people all over the world, including in China, where gambling is illegal, money laundering. But there's a great deal of concern over the potential for foreign intelligence agents to use these POGOs as cover for more nefarious purposes. Spies? In gambling establishments? What is this, Casino Royale? Or Heart of Stone? Or Casino Royale? Back in March, after a tip from an employee, law enforcement in the Philippines actually raided one such facility in Bamban, where Alice Guo is the mayor. They found that the POGO was actually a scam center with 700 workers, including 200 from China, who posed as online lovers. The workers claimed they were forced to work for the owners after having their passports confiscated. They also found bills and other papers in Guo's name, as well as a Ford Expedition registered to her. Which is weird because Guo denied knowledge of the POGO operations, even though the complex was right behind her office. Turns out that Guo owns, or used to own, half the land where the POGO was located, which is how she came under investigation. And that land is just 30 kilometers north of Basa Air Base, where the US military has a presence. Surely that's just a coincidence, though. I mean, sure, China might try to spy in a casino because that's cool, but they'd never try spying on military bases. Turns out Guo also owned a helicopter, which seems like a strange piece of equipment for a small-town mayor. She claims to have sold that as well. Of course, all this doesn't necessarily mean she's a spy. She could just be in bed with Chinese criminals, not literally. Chinese organized crime syndicates are known to use casinos all over the world as cover for human trafficking, kidnapping, illegal immigration, money laundering, and hosting sex rings, and also as a way of influencing local officials. There is overwhelming evidence that these crime syndicates also operate at the command of the Chinese Communist Party. I would refer you to Sam Cooper's book, Willful Blindness, about Chinese gambling operations in Vancouver. The POGOs proliferated under the tenure of former Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte, who was controversial for many reasons, including his outreach to China. He wanted to shift the Philippines away from the US and towards China. POGOs were a way to do that. Duterte eased visa restrictions for Chinese nationals. According to a report from 2020, 90,000 Chinese nationals worked in the online gambling industry. Many of those were suspected to have bribed local officials for a seamless visa entry program introduced in the Duterte era as an effort to increase tourism from and trade with China. Senator Risa Hontiveros revealed that in 2017, Duterte appointed officials amassed over $800 million in bribes from it and other corruption. And here I was thinking the most dangerous thing about POGOs was that scene in the Leprechaun movie. If you know, you know. And if you don't, you might not want to. Told you they were super dangerous. Senator Risa Hontiveros is also the one accusing Guo of being a spy now. The Bureau of Immigration suspended the visa on arrival program in light of the pandemic, but the POGOs remain. Some right next to military bases. What a complete and totally silly coincidence. Take Fort Bonifacio Military Headquarters, for example, which is bordered by McKinley Hills and McKinley West POGOs. Philippines Defense Department officials are gravely concerned that these POGOs play a major role in spying on military bases and critical issues of national security. Now there is a concentrated effort to crack down on these POGOs and prevent them from expanding. The chairwoman of the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation said, "We will no longer accept any more POGO license applications until we have reviewed and addressed the concerns of everybody." Tighter regulations, removal of POGOs from sites near military bases, and stricter licenses have also been floated. Of course, maybe we should limit the amount of things floating when talking about spying. Of course, the CCP is condemning these criminal elements in the POGOs that are totally not acting on behalf of the Chinese regime. China's foreign ministry released a statement calling offshore gaming the most dangerous tumor in modern society. Really? I can think of another. It's likely that the Alice Guo case will take a while to sort out. Either way, its effects on policy related to POGOs and the increased awareness around them might be game-changing. I know, that pun was pure craps. I couldn't afford to make jokes like that without your support. The majority of China Uncensored's budget comes from fans like you who support the show on the crowdfunding website Patreon. Visit patreon.com/China Uncensored. All it takes is $1 an episode. I make about 16 episodes a month, but if that's too much for you, you can set a monthly limit so you can ensure I can keep uncensoring China for even $1 a month. And as a thank you to everyone who gives on Patreon, I'll answer one of their questions at the end of these episodes. Today's question comes from Insider. I'm not a fan of Marco Rubio for many of his domestic policies, but he is one of the DC politicians that takes the CCP threat seriously and was instrumental in the clearing out of the Chinese embassy in Houston. Did we ever learn exactly what happened during the Houston fiasco? What was happening there? Simple intellectual theft or other nefarious activities? Did they reopen the Houston consulate office? That's actually a really relevant question for today's episode, because like casinos, Chinese consulates around the world are hubs for CCP-directed criminal activity. The Houston consulate was one of the worst offenders in Chinese espionage. So let me explain what that means. The US government believes that all consulates are bases of operations for foreign intelligence services. They accept that. But this one consulate so far crossed the line, they shut it down. But Chinese consulates do more than just spy. They exert control over student groups, collect information on Uyghurs and Chinese dissident groups, and coordinate local and state-level political influence activities. Remember, the Chinese Communist Party started out as a gang of criminals. Think of the CCP as one giant triad. That's why when you see Chinese criminal activities, you'll find the CCP. See the recent episode I did about how the CCP is fueling the opioid epidemic in the US. I'll put a link to that below. Thanks for your question and your support, Insider, and thank you for watching. Head over to Patreon by clicking on that orange button. And if you didn't know, I talk about news, politics, and philosophy through the lens of gaming on my new show, Deep Thoughts While Gaming. The latest is about why bottle caps in the game Fallout makes no sense as a currency, and neither does the US dollar. Click here and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.